This video, I'm going to teach you how to find the standard deviation of a sample set or a data set using your calculator. And we're going to look at this concussion data that should be in the notes guide for you. And what it is this is data that was collected over the time it took players on the football team to recover from a concussion. And there's two groups. There's group 1, which took less than 14 days. And there's group 2, which took more than 14 days. And if you can already look at this without even doing the calculations, you can see that the variation of the spread in group 2 is going to be a lot larger than the variation in group 1. But I want to show you how to calculate this by using the calculator now. We've already done it by hand. And doing it by hand is good to build the concept, but it's not necessary because our calculator can do all this work for us. So here's how we do this. First thing we're going to do is in our calculator, we're going to go into a list. Remember, to go to a list, you press the stat key and you press enter on edit. From there, you're going to type the numbers into a list. And I've already have mine typed in here, but these are the actual values for group 1. So once you get all 12 of those values typed in, the next step is to do it like you're going to find the mean or the median again. And remember, to find the mean or the median, we press the stat key. And then from stat, we arrow over to calc and we do 1-bar stats. We need to make sure we set the correct list, and mine is in list 1, which is already set for me. Leave the frequency list blank and then go to calculate. And remember, when we look at this, we see that the sample mean is 7.5. And you can arrow down and see that the median is also 7.5. And this gives you a good idea of what the shape of the distribution is going to look like. And because the mean and the median are exactly the same things, we should understand now from previous chapters that means that this is a symmetric distribution because our mean and median are equal. But now to find the standard deviation, if you notice here, you have S of x and you also have sigma x. Remember, S of x is the sample standard deviation and sigma x is the population standard deviation. So depending on what we're talking about, either one of these can be used. Generally though, we will use S of x, which is the larger of the two values. S of x is always larger than sigma x because S of x is the sample standard deviation and sigma x is the population standard deviation. So generally speaking, you will always use this S of x value, which will always be a little bit bigger than the population value. So that gives you the standard deviation. What if I wanted you to find the variance? Well, there is no actual calculation for the variance on your calculator, but we don't need one because we know this variance comes from taking the square root, we know the standard deviation comes from taking the square root of the variance. Therefore, if we already have the standard deviation, and to get here we took the square root, to go back, all we're going to do is take 1.88 and then square it. If we do that, here is your sample variance. To get the population variance, you would just take sigma x and square it.